To give a proper introduction of my colleague Juanita Lewis, because she's one of the best trainers I know. And then we'll grab lunch, we'll sit down and we'll talk about power, which we've been talking about all morning. I want to get into some, I see more people like taking photos with their phones. I hope some of you are tweeting, that's great. I'm tweeting. You can just retweet my tweets if you want, right? So I want to talk a little bit about Twitter, because people feel really constrained by that 140 characters. Like there are 5 things that the Assemblywomen spoke of now that I wanted to actually tweet, and my thumbs were like not going fast enough to as great as the things coming out of their mouth, right? So I wrote a bunch of them down. I'm gonna send them later. Just because they happened right now doesn't mean that the sort of beautiful statements need to go, you know, that they're gone. I wrote a couple of them down that I really like, and I'm gonna send them when I have a little bit of a break. So don't feel like just because you can't get it out in the moment that you can't send that tweet. And also tweeting at your elected representative. So write these long tweets. You don't have to be 140 characters. You can just keep writing, hit send when you hit 140, keep writing, hit send when you hit 140, keep writing, hit send. Totally fine. That is, your thought does not have to be in one tweet, because if you get them out right after each other, they all live in the same chunk online. What some people do is they put on, like, you see a lot of artists or like rappers like fighting on Twitter. Love it, hilarious, right? They put like 1 of 2, 2 of 2, right? Go ahead and do that. If you know your tweet's gonna be long, you can say, this is gonna be a long tweet. And you know, people know to sort of tag onto it, but most likely just click on your page then and start reading your tweets. So do not feel constrained by the 140 characters, okay? Second little trick here is that .@ symbol. It's just a little trick if you want to tweet at someone. So I was tweeting at Congresswoman Meng today. I put .@ Rep Grace Meng, and it not only goes to her so that we can be in conversation and she can see it, it goes to all of her followers. So it's just a little trick. It's not anything fancy. Don't worry about it. If you forget it, I won't be mad. Right? So the other thing to do is look at what's trending, what's happening in the space. For this event, we're using Women in Power. Hashtag Women in Power. That's the name of the event. And we want other people to know about us. If they're missing the event, we want them to come, right? We're still open. Come at 12 o'clock. Join us for lunch. Those are the kind of things you would put on Twitter because they happen in real time, right? For politicians, people who are thinking about running, for organizations who want to get in the news, reporters use Twitter. I mean, the press release is kind of dead. Reporters use Twitter. You want to tweet at a reporter, and you want to tweet at them 3, 4, 5 times. There's this interesting fact about women in email, that men write 4 times the amount of emails that we write. So if you're, particularly for young women, if you're thinking you want to ask somebody to have a coffee with you or sort of talk about mentorship, we send 1 email, and then when they don't get back to us, we get like, oh, I guess we're not good enough. No, you just got to send it again and again and again, because that person is busy. And how many times have you gotten something in your inbox and you're like, I know there's this woman, she wrote me, what the heck's her name? You go to search for it, you don't even remember who it was, right? If she wrote you back, we do it 4 times, men do it 4 times more than we do. So I tell a lot of young women, if you ever saw like Finding Nemo, the Dory fish that forgets everything, we call this the Dory rule. Just forget that you already wrote it and write it again, all right? Everyone has a platform. This is Beyonce at the VMAs. This is her platform. This woman is on a global stage. This statement really changed the conversation about feminism in the last year. I mean, and I want all of us to think about ourselves. I mean, I kind of do this quietly in my home, but I want to think of myself as a mini Beyonce with my mini platform. I have a platform, she has a platform, you have a platform, we all have a platform, and we need to use it. So social media might be scary, but it's ours to take ownership of, and it's totally one-directional communication. That's what's awesome. You set the complete tone for what you do. My best example of this, not my favorite woman politician, but Sarah Palin has one-way communication, and she sets her agenda. She uses Twitter and social media to do it. She authors books, she has her blog, and she is outward, and that is her message. It's genius, right? So just 6 quick tips, and then I'm going to stop there. We do have a longer presentation. Again, you will get the full presentation, and you will also have the opportunity to take next week's fundraising training. You'll get that as well. So what are you saying in your emails and in your newsletters? That's the number one. This is the same exact thing you say on your tweets and your Facebook messages, okay? Number two, if you are an organization or a politician, I encourage you to set a small budget for social media. Vote Run Lead has had success using social media ads with as small as a $20 Facebook ad. It took something from reach of 500 people to reach of 17,000 people. So those are the kind of, I'm not a huge fan of spending a ton of money on the ads, but test it, spend $20. If it's going well, you'll get a notification, and you might want to spend another $20. Don't put $2,000 into a single Facebook ad. Start with $5, $10, $20 into a Facebook ad. Right? My number 3 rule is don't feed the trolls. Does anyone know what that means? Right? So haters gonna hate. Right? I don't need you with your men's groups and your all that. I don't need it. Right? You can delete those people. You can report them to social media. You can report them to Twitter. You can block them. You can block their email addresses. Do not write them back.
Right.
Do not write them back. And do not feel bad about it. That man is a lonely, lonely man, sitting in his computer, worried about what you're doing, right? That's kind of stuff that hurts. A lot of the young feminists online feel that. There's a lot of good articles that are starting this conversation about sort of engaging the trolls. Don't. That's for those super uber activists that know how to dance the social media dance. For regular folks, for your organization, do not feed the trolls, all right? Number 4, create your own media. If you are thinking about running and you've got maybe 2 years to do it, you need to have a website. You need to have a blog. You need to have something online where you are searched, you can be found, right? So if you're thinking about launching an organization, if you've got a campaign coming up, even if you have a big event coming up, things like WordPress are very easy to set up. We have a lot of plug-and-play tools that are available now, so find someone who knows this stuff and make sure that you have erinvelarde.com, myname.com, even if it is just a splash page, right? You just need to be found online. So that's your sort of create your own media. Pictures go way further than statements. So those little inspirational images that someone sends you or, something funny, some of them are hilarious, right? So those go the furthest. So if you have a campaign that you're running or an issue advocacy campaign or you're trying to get people to come to the Capitol, you want to put a picture of the Capitol up. You want to go into your old Rolodex and find those pictures of your team, especially if there's people that maybe you took a group photo from your last event. Pictures go much further, and then tagging folks goes much further. We don't have time to talk about tagging, but all the tagging is that @ symbol and then someone's name, right? And when I said something else, so last week we announced this 30 sessions of these web clinics, and we announced it last week. I tagged 20 people underneath it, and what started happening was those people started tagging 10 people underneath it. And my personal page got 22 shares and reached 30,000 people. Because my tag and your tag and your tag and your tag and my tag create a really beautiful web. What actually the Obama campaign showed us is that everyone was one friend away from being President Obama's campaign team's friend. And it was freaky because of how connected that social media is. So very, very powerful. So share pictures. Pictures on Twitter go further. Pictures on Facebook go further. It's why Instagram is growing in popularity. And then share, share, share. Take other people's stuff. Just take it. Hit the share button, right? Be that vehicle. I forget which assemblyman was talking about folks don't know the difference between a primary and a general election. If this is something that you know, and you're oh, this is just something I know, maybe your 30 friends on Facebook don't know it. Even if you never post anything of your own personal expertise or you don't have your own sort of tone to it, hit that share button because you are now a human hyperlink being connected to Facebook. So share, 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 share other people's stuff, share other organizations that you care about, share their stuff. Because often, how many of us serve as the kind of political experts for our friends? Right? When they're I don't know where to vote, it's 5 o'clock, where do I vote? Right? I'm what state do you live in now? Why are you calling me? If you're that humor hyperlink, and if you're that person in politics, you know that there's got to be half of your list that doesn't know the difference between a general and a primary. So share that information, all right? So I think we have a longer presentation on social. If we get to it later, great, but we will share it with you. And I want to just pause and introduce Juanita before we break for lunch so that we don't have to do that. But Juanita's going to come up during lunch and talk about power. And we're not using a presentation, we're just talking about power and organizing, something I'm sure many of you are very familiar with. But I hope you make the connections between social media being a tool and helping a new organizing tool. She and I are kind of working on that as a conversation about Vote Run Lead. How do we use the community organizing principles and the social media tools in a way that's really complementary? And I've known Juanita now probably 6, 7 years. She comes to us actually from Minnesota, though on the cab ride here she was telling me that she's getting used to Yonkers. She doesn't tell everyone, born and raised in Minnesota. She says, I live in Yonkers, which I think it's quite a different component. And when I first met her, she started training for us, and I was standing in the back of the room. I think it was a Go Run event you were doing with us, and it was you just know someone who is smart, who knows their stuff in their core. And Juanita does community organizing as a professional, and she probably should get paid a lot more than she does to do it. And she's really just a young woman who is part of the team at Vote Run Lead, where a handful of us are fairly young women. It's a real pleasure to work with Juanita, and not only is she an expert in her field, but she is willing to engage in a conversation about not where we are, but where we should be going, and she kind of has that futurist mentality on the world. So I know we're going to break for lunch, but I just wanted to give you a proper shout out because I love you. All right. Thank you. And